Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. I hope you are well. Let's begin by turning inward. I was this close to just starting to read. I'm a bit distracted. It was a bit of a stressful day. Let's just breathe and come into the moment. Come into our own presence. The most powerful place to be. Your own presence. Sink into it as deep as you possibly can. Becoming a magnet. Above all else, a magnet to yourself. For yourself. Pulling yourself. Your attention. Your center. Deeper and deeper. Until it reaches that place which I am not going to reach tonight. Maybe you will. That place where it is one. Where you are one. Feel the gravity of your core, of this inner depth that you belong to. It does not belong to you, you belong to it. The magnetic pull of the whole. And within the silence and rest, peace, strength. Let's listen to Plato. We're starting a new dialogue today. I heard Joe say this once. Euthydemus, I think he said. Euthydemus. I'm going to go with that. Crito. Who was that person, Socrates, with whom you were talking yesterday at the Lyceum? There was such a crowd around you that I could not get within hearing. But I caught a sight of him over their heads, and I made out as I thought that he was a stranger with whom you were talking. Who was he? Socrates. There were two, Crito. Which of them do you mean? Crito. The one whom I mean was seated second from you on the right side. In the middle was Clinias, the son of Axiochus, who was wonderfully grown. He is only about the age of my own Critobulus, but he is much forwarder and very good looking. The other is thin and looks younger than he is. Socrates. He whom you mean, Crito, is Euthydemus, and on my left hand there was his brother Dionysiodorus, who also took part in the conversation. Crito. Neither of them are known to me, Socrates. They are a new importation of sophists, as I should imagine. Of what country are they? And what is their line of wisdom? Socrates. As to their origin, I believe that they are natives of this part of the world and have migrated from Chios to Turi. They were driven out of Turi and have been living for many years past in these regions. As to their wisdom, about which you ask, Crito, they are wonderful, consummate, omniscient, the other translation says. I never knew what the true Pancratius was before. Pancratius is the Greek wrestler boxer, so all-round fighter. They are simply made up for fighting. Not like the two Acarnanian brothers who fight with their bodies only. But this pair of heroes, besides being perfect in the use of their bodies, are invincible in every sort of warfare, for they are capable of fighting in armor and will teach the art of anyone to anyone who pays them. And also they are most skillful in legal warfare. They will plead themselves and teach others to speak and to compose speeches which will have an effect upon the courts. And this was only the beginning of their wisdom, but they have at last carried out the pancreatic art to the very end and have mastered the only mode of fighting which had been hitherto neglected by them. And now no one dares even to stand up against them. Such is their skill in the war of words, that they can refute any proposition, whether true or false. Now I am thinking, Crito, of placing myself in their hands, for they say that in a short time they can impart their skill to anyone. My body is tingling. That's strange. I do love a good fight. Crito. Oh, no. The first time ever I saw your face. Every time I click down for the first time, it jumps to the end. Crito. But Socrates, are you not too old? There may be reason to fear that. Socrates. Certainly not, Crito, as I will prove to you, for I have the consolation of knowing that they began this art of disputation which I covered. Oh, quite as I may say in old age themselves, last year, or the year before, they had none of their new wisdom. I am only apprehensive that I may bring the two strangers into disrepute, as I have done with Conos the son of Metribius, the harp player, who is still my music master. For when the boys who go to him see me going with them, they laugh at me and call him Grandpa's master. Now, oh, I just spit on the mic. Now I should not like the strangers to experience. Oh no, it started. Now I should not like the strangers to experience similar treatment. The fear of ridicule may make them unwilling to receive me, and therefore, Crito, I shall try and persuade some old men to accompany me to them, as I persuaded them to go with me to Konos, not Kronos. and I hope that you will make one. And perhaps we had better take your sons as bait. They will want to have them as pupils, and for the sake of them willing to receive us. Crito: I see no objection, Socrates, if you like, but first I wish that you would give me a description of their wisdom, that I may know beforehand what we are going to learn. Socrates: in less than no time you shall hear, for I cannot say that I did not attend. I paid great attention to them, and I remember and will endeavor to repeat the whole story. Providentially, I was sitting alone in the dressing room of the Lyceum, where you saw me, and was about to depart. When I was getting up, I recognized the familiar divine sign. So I sat down again. And in a little while the two brothers, Euthydemus and and Euthydemus came in, and several others with them, whom I believe to be their disciples, and they walked about in the covered court. They had not taken more than 2 or 3 turns when Cleinias entered, who, as you truly say, is very much improved. He was followed by a host of lovers, one of whom was Cepsippus the Panian, a well-bred youth, but also having the wildness of youth. Cleinias saw me from the entrance as I was sitting alone, and at once came and sat down on the right hand of me, as you describe. And Dionysiodorus and Euthydemus, when they saw him, at first stopped and talked with one another, now and then glancing at us. For I particularly watched them. And then Euthydemus came and sat down by the youth, and the other by me on the right hand, the rest anywhere. I saluted the brothers, whom I had not seen for a long time. And then I said to Cleinias, here are 2 wise men, Euthydemus and Dionysiodorus, Cleinias, wise not in a small but in a large way of wisdom. For they know all about war, all that a good general ought to know, about the array and command of an army, and the whole art of fighting in armor, and they know about law too, and can teach a man how to use the weapons of the courts when he is injured. They heard me say this, but only despised me. I observed that they looked at one another, and both of them laughed. And then Euthydemus said, those, Socrates, are matters which we no longer pursue seriously. To us they are secondary occupations. Indeed, I said, if such occupations are regarded by you as secondary, what must be the principal one? Tell me, I beseech you, what that noble study is. The teaching of virtue, Socrates, he replied, is our principal occupation, and we believe that we can impart it better and quicker than any man. My God, I said, and where did you learn that? I always thought, as I was saying just now, that your chief accomplishment was the art of fighting in armor. And I used to say as much of you, for I remember that you professed this when you were here before. But now, if I really have the other knowledge, oh, forgive me, I address you as I would superior beings, and ask you to pardon the impiety of my former expressions. But are you quite sure about this, Dionysiodorus and Euthydemus? The promise is so vast that a feeling of incredulity steals over me. You may take our word, Socrates, for the fact. Then I think you happier in having such a treasure than the great king is in his possession of his kingdom. And please to tell me whether you intend to exhibit your wisdom, or what will you do? That is why you have come hither. That is why we have come hither, Socrates. And our purpose is not only to exhibit, but also to teach anyone who likes to learn. But I can promise you, I said, that every unvirtuous person will want to learn. I shall be the first. And there is the youth Clinias and Ctesippus, and here are several others, I said, pointing to the lovers of Clinias, who were beginning to gather round us. Now Ctesippus was sitting at some distance from Clinias, and when Euthydemus leaned forward in talking with me, he was prevented from seeing Clinias, who was between us, and so, partly because he wanted to look at his love, and also because he was interested, he jumped up and stood opposite to us, and all the other admirers of Clinias, as well as the disciples of Euthydemus and Dionysodorus, followed his example. And these were the persons whom I showed to Euthydemus, telling him that they were all eager to learn, to which Ctesippus and all of them with one voice vehemently assented, and bid him exhibit the power of his wisdom. Then I said, O Euthydemus and Dionysodorus, I earnestly request you to do myself and the company the favor of exhibit. There may be some trouble in giving the whole exhibition, but tell me one thing. Can you make a good man of him only who is already convinced that he ought to learn of you, or of him also who is not convinced? Either because he imagines that virtue is a thing which cannot be taught at all, or that you are not the teachers of it. Has your art power to persuade him, who is the latter temper of mind, that virtue can be taught, and that you are the men from whom he will best learn it? Certainly, Socrates, said Dionysodorus, our art will do both. And you and your brother Dionysodorus, I said, of all men who are now living, are the most likely to stimulate him to philosophy and to the study of virtue. Yes, Socrates, I rather think that we are. Then I wish that you would be so good as to defer the other part of the exhibition and only try to persuade the youth whom you see here that he ought to be a philosopher, ought to love wisdom, and study virtue, have a care for virtue. Exhibit that, and you will confer a great favor on me and on everyone present. For the fact is, I and all of us are extremely anxious that he should become truly good. His name is Clinias, and he is the son of Axiochus, the grandson of the old Alcibiades, cousin of the Alcibiades that now is. Another beauty. He is quite young, and we are naturally afraid that some one may get the start of us and turn his mind a wrong direction, and he may be ruined. Your visit, therefore, is most happily timed, and I hope that you will make a trial of the young man and converse with him in our presence, if you have no objection. These were pretty nearly the expressions which I used, and Euthydemus, in a manly and at the same time encouraging tone, replied, "There can be no objection, Socrates, if the young man is only willing to answer questions." "He is quite accustomed to do so," I replied, "for his friends often come and ask him questions and argue with him, and therefore he is quite at home in answering. Quite at home in answering. He is quite at home in answering." That is beautiful. What followed, Crito, how can I rightly narrate? For not slight is the task of rehearsing infinite wisdom, and therefore, like the poets, I ought to commence my relation with an invocation to memory and the muses. Now Euthydemus, if I remember rightly, began nearly as follows. "O Cleinias, are those who learn the wise or the ignorant?" The youth, overpowered by the question, blushed, and in his perplexity looked at me for help. And I, knowing that he was disconcerted, said, "Take courage, Cleinias, and answer like a man, whichever you think, for my belief is that you will derive the greatest benefit from their questions." "Whichever he answered," said Dionysodorus, leaning forward so as to catch my ear, his face beaming with laughter, "I prophesy that he will be refuted, Socrates." While he was speaking to me, Cleinias gave his answer, and therefore I had no time to warn him of the predicament in which he was placed. And he answered that those who learned were the wise. Euthydemus proceeded. "There are some whom you would call teachers, are they not?" The boy assented. "And they are the teachers of those who learn, the grammar master and the guitar master used to teach you and other boys, and you were the learners." "Yes." "And when you were learners, you did not as yet know the things which you were learning." "No," he said. "And were you wise then?" "No, indeed," he said. "But if you were not wise, you were unlearned." "Certainly." "You then, learning what you did not know, were unlearned when you were learning." Then the youth nodded assent. "Then the unlearned learn, and not the wise, Cleinias, as you imagine." Thus far our scripture of the evening. I do not know how much value to place on these last words, because I believe it will be refuted tomorrow. More than words. Who learns? I think it is a very age-old saying, or something that people know, that the more you learn, the less you know. So in that sense, it is the learned who learns. But the most curious are probably the children. So it is the wise who learn. So what I'm seeing here tonight is Plato trying to clear the name of his beloved Socrates, that was condemned for corrupting the youth. And by this very method of asking questions and refuting through his questioning all answers. So Plato, from my perspective, but I think it's very obvious, I cannot imagine that it's not agreed upon that this is the way to interpret this, is contrasting Socrates to these two young, well, he says they're already old, to these previous warriors who now have become warriors with words. It feels uncannily familiar. Men who make the name for them as, I don't know, restless or something. And then starting to explore the world of wisdom. And by all means do so. And they even say that they are concerned with that noble study, the teaching of virtue. What they do, so the center of this discussion, besides of course the two brothers, is this boy Clinias, is his name Clinias, who clearly is quite a beauty, because he's family with Alcibiades, and he has many, many lovers. And it's interesting, like the attention, the type of attention that he is being paid. First, there's named and unnamed lovers of his that crowd around him and whatever happens around him. Then there's these two brothers, which clearly spots him as a wonderful target, because if you can manage to catch to win the soul of the one that others are competing for, then you have by winning that one, you win many. And so they target this beautiful boy as the one to go into conversation with. And then Socrates also targets this young man. And he states it's because he is concerned that because of his beauty, because of his family, someone else will get hold of him and corrupt him. And he's very desirous that the boy will learn, that he will turn to a love of wisdom and virtue, and that he would be good. So this battle between Socrates and the sophists, this contrasting the two, Socrates, the one portrayed as, at least by Plato, the true lover of learning, the true lover of wisdom. And the others that make not only a sport of it, but money out of it, that sees it as a way to gain gold. This battle is centered around one beautiful soul. Who will win? It's playful, and I think I picked up on that playfulness. Or maybe it's just the stress that's released, and that's why I was all giggly. And I feel like I should apologize for that, but I don't really have to, I suppose. It's funny. Oh, there's certain standards that we set ourselves, and if we don't meet it, we feel guilty. And I think I think I'm only feeling that I need to be serious because I'm tired or drained from the stress of the day. And so I'm making way more of this than I should. And where was I going? The battle of the beautiful soul. The battle for the beautiful soul. Oh, yes, this feels playful, this dialogue. But if you look carefully, if you read between the lines, it's a tragedy. Because already these two warriors, combatants, are announced as two people who can sway the courts. And get whatever verdict they desire. They're that good with words, and that persuasive. And of course we know, at least Plato claims, and maybe it is true, that the downfall of Socrates was his incapability, him being unable to do that, to sway the courts, to woo them with his way with words. So the tragedy is very much already there. A fault in the hero, a lack in the hero, that will become his downfall. At least that's how I currently understand tragedy. I still need to read the Poetics. I still need to buy it. I wonder. Who learns? And why do we learn? Maybe not on here, but in my personal life and in my mind, I often ridicule the desperation with which the old guard holds to the old order, because it is obviously passing. There's no way back. There's no way to foresee the future. It's completely new. And yet when I'm faced with uncertainty, that's a very scary place to be. So who learns? To some extent, our learning is maybe motivated by our need for safety, for being able to control. And maybe that is why people so desperately want to be sure of the things they know. And it's sad that our learning is motivated from there. And sometimes I'm capable, and I wish for that to be more, to simply truly learn from a place of curiosity. I know it should be one day if I really want to be a philosopher, but for me it's often simple curiosity. Curiosity will kill this cat, I'm sure. And so I feel sorry for myself as well, and not just the old guard. Because we're sliding down the rabbit hole, and nothing can stop us now. We're past the point of no return. May the spirit of Sophia be with us.